Hello and welcome to the ROKER Report podcast. It is a victory podcast today and they are always the best ones. I am joined by busy ROKER Report bees, Niall, Bromley and Ant. Niall, how are you doing today? Are you still in you were in a reasonably upbeat mood yesterday, so are you still sort of feeling happy after a win?
Well, it's funny you say I was in an upbeat mood because Ant actually said I was the most negative he'd ever heard us.
You did give a 4,
yeah,
I did hear that.
I did give a 4, and I think that 4 was a bit too kind, to be honest with you. Obviously we'll get into that in a bit, but yeah, no, I'm a little bit less upbeat than what I normally am about yesterday's performance, especially after a win. But yeah, I'm happy other than that. I mean, it's a horrible day. The wind's blowing and stuff. So what else to be doing than sitting talking about football with you and my good pal Ant?
Thanks for the weather report there. Ant, how are you doing
Right.
today? What's the weather like where you are since Niall's decided to tell us what it's...
Yeah, it is a bit blowy and wet and rainy here, probably the same as what it is in Blythe. I'm not too bad. We would just like to apologise to any listener who was sick of my voice because I know I've been on a lot, but needs must, isn't it?
Busy. Okay, so yesterday Sunderland defeated Gillingham 2-0. It might be 2 days by the time you listen to this, but on Saturday Sunderland defeated Gillingham 2-0 at the Priestfield Stadium. There were no pictures of the team eating McDonald's on the way home as well, so that's happy days. No scandals breaking from an away trip to Gillingham. To sum up the game, Sunderland was shite for an hour. To be honest, I was taking notes of the game and I had very little written down for the first hour beyond an offside goal that it's impossible to tell if it's on or offside because of the terrible one-camera system at every League One ground. Then they missed a penalty. Lee Burge saved it. They got a player sent off for trying to snap Luke O'Nine's leg. We scored a penalty through Maguire, and then Gooch ran like a million miles to confirm our win and score. So 2-0. Yesterday, Niall and Ant reacted pretty much immediately after the game. And I want to look ahead today, so we're not covering the same topics to talk about, obviously, a massive game on Tuesday against Ipswich Town, but also answer some kind of underlying philosophical questions that Sunderland fans are dealing with at the moment. But before we jump into all that, first things first, did Phil Parkinson get the team selection right yesterday? He didn't really touch that much on this in the reaction pod. So now, what did you make of the team selection yesterday? And we are going to jump to talk about some of the under-23 players and stuff, so I presume that'll probably feature a little bit in your answer. But what did you make of the team?
Well, it won, so I find it hard to, say bad things or criticise it when it won. There was maybe a couple of things in there that people might have questioned, throwing Ledbetter and Scowen in. There was rumours of an alleged falling out between them and Parkinson. Nobody knows if that's true or not. They'd have missed a game and then been put straight back in. I thought Scowen was energetic, other than the fact he should have maybe had a hat-trick. He was getting forward, which was good, which is one of the reasons I gave him a 6 yesterday. So, yeah, I wouldn't have too many gripes with the starting 11. I thought it was probably what we all expected. And, to be honest, other than Aidan O'Brien, I touched on it yesterday. I don't think he should be anywhere near the team. He hasn't done anywhere near enough to earn a spot on that team. I probably wouldn't have had him in. And I would like to see more of Grigg, because as Ant said yesterday, you've got a lad sitting there who is capable of scoring 15 goals a season. And the only way he's going to do that is playing. And the biggest thing we're lacking, as everyone knows, is goals. So that's disappointing. I would like to see more of Will Grigg. Other than that, you can't really grumble with it, like I say, but because they won. Had it been a draw, which it looked like it was going to be for most of the game, then obviously I'll probably sit here and pick 6 or 7 things he probably should have done. But it's it's a victory in the end. Despite how it's happened, it's still a win. So can't really gripe too much at the starting 11 for me.
I think Niall's kind of hit roughly. I think that's roughly where I sit on that debate. If you win a game, you can't really gripe too much about a team selection. But I do want to jump now, and I feel like this is probably going to be a large section of this podcast. The under-23s have won 3 games this season, and to put that in context, I worked for Sunderland for 18 months, and I believe they never won a league game in that time. So that's how bad Sunderland under-23s have been. Wow. But 3 wins this season. Embleton struggled with injury, but scored a brace against Aston Villa on Friday. The question has to be, we'll touch first on Elliot Embleton. Sunderland's lacked huge amounts of creativity this season. That goes without saying. Our creative play is, I would probably say, in the bottom 8 of the league. I've not seen many sides that are as inept going forward as us. But Elliot Embleton's a player that Sunderland coaches, look highly on. He's a player that's came through the academy, England under sort of 17. I think he's been England under 19 international as well. Could Elliot Embleton be the answer to our creative problems, Ant? Go.
I would probably say he would be, yeah. But the only thing I would kind of be a little bit wary about is where he's going to fit in Parkinson's system, because he's more of he's like a number 10, really, isn't he? He gets a few goals, he can set them up, he's got good creative nous about him, but where I'll put him in Parkinson's system, I'm not quite sure. I will say, though, it is very, very good to see him back. Obviously he's had injuries left, right and centre, bless him, and, he has got the ability to be a very good footballer. I've got quite a vested interest in him because we're from the same village, so, it's always nice to see someone from our neck, so to speak, do well. So, but yeah, if they can find a position for him, or, integrate a team around him, really, then I think it can only be good things, because, he's obviously far too good to play on the 23 level for the rest of his life at Sunderland, and I think he probably would have broke in by now if it wasn't for the injuries he's had last season, bless him, because he had a really bad hamstring injury, didn't he, against, I think it was Sheffield United, wasn't it, last season, and, that's obviously set him back, 8-9 months, and then first game of pre-season, he injures himself again, he's missed another 6 weeks, so there's certainly scope for him, because, like you say, we've got very little creative player bar Maguire and Gooch, really. So, yeah, as long as they can find a way in Parkinson's system, then 100% for me. I think it's a no-brainer.
Where would you fit Embleton into the Parkinson system? Now, if you believe that Embleton should be given a chance in the first team?
I agree with that. I'd probably stick him on the number 10, or potentially on the wing. I'd certainly play him ahead of Aidan O'Brien every day of the week on the wing. I don't know. He looks like a type of kind of versatile player, doesn't he? He seems that way, which is obviously very handy to have. It just feels like it's taken forever with him. I feel like I've known about a prospect called Elliot Embleton for about 10 years, and he's just like Ant says, he's had so many injuries, he's not come through, and it's so frustrating for him. But yeah, if I definitely think that Parkinson's going to have him in his mind, he's going to have to find a place for him. It's going to be tough for him to stick him exactly where, because, you can't really drop Maguire, we can't really drop Gooch, but we can play him on the wing, we can take Aidan O'Brien out of the team, because that's what needs to happen for me. So hopefully that's where he'll play if we decide to play him.
It would be interesting, to actually see, because he made his debut around about 3 years ago, didn't he, against Wolves under Coleman. So it'd be interesting to actually see, obviously I don't have the stats in front of us, how many times he's actually featured for us since then, and if that's been down injury or whatever it is, because it's not been many.
Be a handful.
I would say probably 5 or 6 appearances, yeah.
He had a loan spell at Grimsby where he did very well. I know Danny Collins always speaks very highly of Embleton and says that he can certainly play at League One level, but Sunderland have played a 5-3-2 a few times this season. A lot of that's been dictated by injuries, because, you've had to shift Lugo 9 into centre-back, and then you shift Lyndon Gooch into the wing-back position. But if Sunderland were to go back to a 5-3-2, surely Embleton would be a good player to put in that 3 who can kind of do what Scowen does in that position, where he sort of goes onto the right-hand side. He kind of drifts into being a little bit of a wide midfielder. Embleton could probably do that on the left-hand side. So that's kind of where I'd envisage him coming in. But Niall, you're also right. If Sunderland stick with the 5-2-3 that they're playing at the minute, or the 5-4-1, depending on how you look at it, Embleton would be the logical fit to replace Aidan O'Brien, and I think O'Brien's probably been the most disappointing signing Sunderland's made in a while, because I had very high expectations for him when he comes in. We'll jump now and talk about some of the other younger players that haven't been given a chance. Dan Neil and Jack Diamond are players that Sunderland fans have kind of craved to get in that team this season. We've got Mansfield next weekend. It feels like Parkinson keeps giving them auditions in these cup games, and they always impress and don't get a chance. Is the Mansfield game potentially another chance for them to show why they should be in the team now?
Yeah, it is. And you'll put them in. They'll both play that game. I'll be very surprised if they didn't.
I think all 3 will. Neil, Diamond, Embleton, they'll play.
If Embleton's 100% fit, he'll play him, yeah. I'd be very surprised if he didn't. I don't know. It'll be nice to see them as well. I'm looking forward to that, because I always think cup games, even though you want to win them, let's be honest, we're not going to win that cup. So it's a kind of relaxing game, isn't it? Because league's our priority, so you can kind of just relax, watch it, And you're upset if they lose, but it's not the end of the world. So I am looking forward to it, and I do think he'll put them in. We just got to. It just depends on like Kimpioka as well. Like if he comes in next weekend and he plays him and he scores, see he gets a brace, then Sunderland are desperate for goals. There's going to be so much pressure under Phil Parkinson to play him. So much pressure, even if he has a good game and doesn't score. Because I mean, we haven't had any coverage, unfortunately, of the under 23, so we don't know exactly how he's been playing. But the goal record speaks for itself. So I mean, like say when you're desperate and it's a player who's been in the first team, he's been in and around it, he's scored a goal for the first team, he knows how it works. So yeah, I'd definitely throw him in, and I think that the other three massive for them, but I think bigger for Kimpioka, because that really could be season changing if that works. You never know.
And what do you make of, I suppose, the debate, which is mainly Dan Neil and Jack Diamond? Parkinson's very, very reluctant to throw them in at the minute. And do you think that Mansfield game next weekend, do you think even if they play brilliantly, do you think Parkinson will give them a chance? Because it feels like at the minute, it just doesn't matter how they play, he will not trust them to play in league fixtures. Or am I just maybe being too optimistic in my view of younger players and wanting them to play?
I think we're all like that. The one we've always been like that with young players breaking through at Sunderland, but especially now where the team isn't great, and then we've seen the likes of Diamond, who's done well. Every time he's been given an opportunity, he has done well. Dan Neil in pre-season, I thought, was probably our best player, and it's quite strange to see them, considering why Phil Parkinson's making the whole, at the end season, he made a McGeady argument because he wants to give the youth a go, and then not giving the youth a go. And you're seeing the likes of George Dobson coming in and playing badly every time he plays. And it is strange because I think it's just a matter of trust. I just don't think he trusts him. And, it's like Niall says, they'll play next week. Quickly going back to Kimpioka, I don't think he will play because I believe he got taken off injured on Friday night.
So he did.
That is a shame. But, I think he will bring Elliott in. I think he'll bring Jack Diamond in. He'll bring Dan Neil in. More than likely they'll have good games because the good players will probably end up beating Mansfield, or we should be beating Mansfield anyway. And then probably in our next league game, it'll be back to normal. We're back to probably the team that started on Tuesday. And that is a damn shame considering what have these players got to do? Has Jack Diamond got to, score a hat-trick or something and then just to be in? Or has Dan Neil got to set up every goal? It is very, very strange. It's down to an element of, do we think the manager trusts him? And you've got to see on the evidence of what we've seen this season, he doesn't.
Is Phil Parkinson, is he the right man to give youth a chance at Sunderland? We've got an academy system that'll be the envy of every team in our league, probably the envy of most teams in the league above. We're clearly creating players that are decent. We've obviously seen Josh Madger and Joe Asoro being two recent success stories, but there's other ones in there, and the ones that we're mentioning right now, Diamond, Milton, Dan Neil, all look like good players. Should the club accept, though, as a whole, that the manager is not utilising the academy system when, it's obviously got good players? We're competing with Premier League academies and winning games. Niall, can Phil Parkinson really justify to, his superiors not giving these younger players a chance? And you've also got to think as well, we're a football club that really should be a selling club in the sense we should be trying to produce young players and sell them on for a profit. We've got a manager here that, the best way of doing that is to bring your own young players through and then sell them after they play well. Should the club be questioning his decision? Should they be asking the questions, why are you not giving these players a chance?
Well, they should be, but they won't be, because Parkinson's there for one reason and one reason only. It's to get ourselves out of this division. And to, like I say, the club, Stuart Donald, Jack Rodwell, whoever it is, will not give...
Jack Rodwell.
Now
it's Jack. Back again.
Stop getting names wrong, man.
I didn't say Jack. Did I say that?
You did say Jack.
You said Jack Rodwell.
I didn't. When we look back at this, you'll realise that I didn't say that. So it's like I say, that they want Parkinson to just do what he needs to do to get them promoted, and Phil Parkinson is not going to risk playing a young Dan Neil or a young Jack Diamond ahead of players which are experienced and have the experience and are getting results at the minute. Yeah, we had 2 iffy ones last week, but then we've come back to winning ways at the weekend, and we're still 4 points off top of the game in hand. I mean, it's not the worst return. That's the way they're going to look at it. So they won't ask them questions. Yes, they should be, because everyone wants to see them. But like I said, we haven't seen enough of them because the coverage on the under 23s has been dreadful. I mean, the club haven't even covered it for a lot of the things. We've had to follow other clubs' Twitters for a lot of the games, so we don't even know. But it would be nice to see them given a chance. There's obviously a reason they're not given a chance. These players are going to be knocking on the door. They're going to be asking in January. They're going to be saying, well, if I'm not getting a chance, I want to go on loan. Will that benefit us? Maybe it will. Maybe it'll work better for us and we'll come back next season even better. You don't know. But I certainly think, like you said, the question should be being asked, but it won't be. There is no way that board are asking any questions to Phil Parkinson. They're just letting him get on with his job. 100%.
Do you not think, though, you've said there that Parkinson won't trust these players, and, every single footballer has to play at some point. You only get experience through playing. I suppose the debate really needs to be as fans is whether or not we accept that, as a thing. Can we accept Phil Parkinson saying we will play a bang average George Dobson over Dan Niall, who, to all intents and purposes, hasn't let us down when he has played, and should we as fans, despite results being, okay, I mean, we'll talk about performances soon. We are sitting, I think, 5th or 6th at the minute. We're in touch and distance of the top 2, and I'm not by all means, though, playing scintillating football, and we don't look like a team for me that's going to finish in the top 2. Do you think, though, as fans, should we accept this? The trust thing? Should we not question Phil Parkinson for not trusting the players that have came through the Sunderland Academy, which is a Category 1 Premier League, one of the, traditionally one of the best academies in the country?
Well, we've got every right to ask whether it gets listened to by Parkinson. I highly doubt, because he obviously, as you've said many times, he doesn't listen to social media. He just does what he wants, doesn't he? Which, you kind of have to, in a way, say, his stubbornness sometimes is Achilles' heel, really, because he's just not adaptable to change. He won't do it. I mean, yesterday, the game yesterday, I mean, we just had no pace at all in our midfield or even getting forward, and Diamond was the only one on the bench to have any pace. You never saw him really get vigorously warmed up. You never once thought, oh, they'll bring Diamond on. They brought on, Danny Graham ahead of him, and Danny Graham and Charlie White up front aren't going to win many foot races, are they? You know what I mean? Bless them, because one's 34 and the other one just isn't quick. So yeah, we've got every right to ask, and you bring up a really good point. I mean, what is the purpose of us having the academy and, paying all this money to keep Category 1? And I remember Charlie Method a couple of years ago said it's imperative that we have this Category 1 academy. And I mean, them lads now, they went through, they paid the dues in the last 2 years when they weren't good enough. They were getting hammered every week, and now they're starting to, perform well. I mean, beating the likes of Aston Villa under 23s, for a team who's 2 divisions below in professional football is a good thing. So, it's so difficult to kind of it's been happening for years, though, hasn't it? Where we're not bothered about youth, really. I mean, there's only really, Gooch and Hume now who have broken through. When really, you've got to be thinking there's got to be 5 or 6 a season really coming off the line when you're thinking they're going to be good players, send them out on loan. Like what we did with Jordan Pickford, all those years ago. Jordan Pickford went to Darlington, and then he went to Elite 2, I think he went to Carlisle and Preston. He was eventually, moulded into a very good goalkeeper by sending him out on loan. And I feel like we've missed a massive trick with a couple of them where we've just let them play under 23s. And, the bother is with that, they don't learn football really, because they're playing people their own age, so who they played with for 6-7 years. So it's quite difficult, but it's such a strange thing. But it's been like this for years, and they're not going to change it now, considering the whole kind of purpose of this season is get out of this division by any means necessary, and to take the risk that I just don't think I agree with what Niall said. They're just not going to do it.
Do you think, though, that raises questions about whether or not Phil Parkinson is fundamentally a good football manager? Because we're basically saying, and it seems to be implied, that he will not play players based on ability. He is playing players based on age. It's essentially, he's ageist in a way that you're an 18-year-old. Yes, you're good, but I don't trust you to play because you've not got games under your belt. That to me is just a stupid way of thinking. I mean, imagine if Barcelona did that with Messi, and they were like, oh, well, yeah, you're 16, you're really good, but I just don't trust you because you're 16. Like, it just seems, in the same way that we were looking at, a lot of us did this in the summer, me included, with Ledbetter. We were like, oh, he's 34, he's got no legs, he shouldn't be playing in the midfield. It's ageist in that way. I think Phil Parkinson's got an issue the other way that, essentially if you're not in your mid-20s and have got 100 games under your belt, he's not going to seriously consider you to play in games now.
Well, the thing is, Connor, right, like, you got to remember, when Parkinson was at Bolton, right, his entire team was youth players, because they didn't have a choice. That's all they had. So the whole team that played for the first 7, 8 games, whatever it was youth. That was who was coming into training. It was all youth players. He's seen a lot of it. He's worked with a lot of it, so he does have experience in that area, and he does have experience with those players in this league. So, maybe he just doesn't fancy it because of that. Maybe he's got too many nightmares from it. Maybe he just knows the experienced pros in leagues like this, on horrible pitches and horrible conditions at Gillingham away, where you're full of you're against players who are all 6'5" and just brick shit houses. Does he want to put these youngsters in against him when he has one job, and his one job is to get Sunderland promoted? And as Chris Wynn says every week, this is the biggest job that he will ever have, he will ever get. Sunderland is the biggest club he will ever manage, right? And he can't afford to put the youth in for it to not work. Like I say, he's seen them more than we've seen them. He's heard about them more than what we've heard about them. So there obviously is a reason he's doing it. He has one job, and that's to get them promoted, and it's nothing else. And he's not gonna take risks like that. Not when he's seen it at Bolton. He's not gonna take risks like I'm not saying I agree with that, because I don't. I would play the youth if it was me. I think you do, as a manager, you do need a pair of balls, and you do just need to say, listen, I need to take this risk. I'm gonna do it. But he isn't like that, and we've seen that he hasn't got a pair of balls like that. You brought up the conversation last week or the week before about Aidan McGeady. He hasn't got the balls to sort it out with him and bring him back in, which I think a lot of fans would like to see him back on the pitch. So we all know what we're getting with Parkinson. It's going to be route one, plan A. There's no plan B, and plan B is the kids, and he's not playing the kids. And as Ant said, it is a waste of the academy, but at the minute, Sunderland can afford to waste that academy because they desperately financially need to get out of this league.
Financially easier though if you were able to sell off some of them younger players for money, which would be my argument to Phil Parkinson. I know, Niall, this isn't you who's advocating. I mean, essentially you're playing a kind of a devil's advocate role here and being the Parkinson voice.
No, I'm just saying that'll be why he's not playing them. I mean, he's not.
But is that not though fundamentally? Is that not just stupid?
Well, yeah, it possibly is stupid, but the thing is, like I say, and like the start of my argument, Connor, he literally dealt with this for the first whatever games it was last season at Bolton. All he had was youth. He had nothing else. He had youth, and he had Jack Hobbs, and he had one other player, Lowe, I think it was.
But why is that relevant?
That was what he had. Well, because he's seen them. He's seen youth players at this level, at League One level, in Bolton. They didn't pick what point. They were getting beat 6-0 every game. So
right, yeah, I get that. But you're basically. But we're not talking about bringing in the whole under 23 squad.
I know that.
So if Parkinson though can't bring in, even put Dan Neil on the bench in games, to me that it just seems.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but that's not, you're kind of not getting what I'm saying either. What I'm saying, I'm not saying he'll be bringing the whole team in. What I'm saying is people think that he hasn't got the experience to bring youth players in. He has, because that's all he worked with. That's what I'm saying. He has seen it and he knows how it works. That's the point I'm trying to get across, and he obviously didn't like it.
No, I understand. I know it. Right, okay, let's just switch to bit. I feel like we're just going to do arguing semantics there. I want to shift now. I mean, it's still a little bit Parkinson bashing. I know I won yesterday. I don't really want to. Do you know what? Well, obviously, I say I don't really want to hammer him too much, but I clearly am. So why not? YOLO. We'll jump for it. We'll keep hammering him. Where do we stand on the brand of football that Parkinson's playing? Because I paid £10 every game, sit on my couch at home, but I'm not really enjoying it. Yesterday, the first half, I was feeling a bit snoozy. I've got to admit, I was struggling to keep my eyes open at times. I watch the games because I feel morally obliged to watch them, not because I really enjoy it or get much from it. And that's particularly worse now that we can't go, because if you go to the games, there's other things that you do on a match day that make it fun. You're with your friends or your family, and it's a day out. Now it's not. Now it's me sat on my arse watching the telly and falling half asleep because I'm comfortable under a blanket. where do we stand on the brand of football that Parkinson's playing, and how much is football to you about entertainment, and how much is it to you about results, and where do you sit on that debate?
And I have always been, it doesn't matter as long as we win. And that's been me since, since, got into me like late teens when I started learning a bit more about the football and stuff like that. I mean, look, listen, we would love to, see us put 6-7 goals past Gillingham every week or whatever. But, that's just the way, it's just the way this league is. I think that's the way we're set up to win this league. We're set up to not concede and, maybe get 1 or 2 goals in. It isn't great. I mean, on Tuesday night against Rochdale, I literally struggled to keep me focus up for it. And I know Chris and Craig mentioned this the other day. You really struggled. I had something else on in the background, on the other television. I think I was watching the Wickham game, and I was literally watching that one more than the Sunderland one. But I think again it goes back to that they need to do everything possible to get out of the league. And if these, obviously these performances aren't great, but we've lost once all season. We're in the top 6. We're getting results. It won't matter at one iota to the owners how well we're playing. It just matters about results. But yeah, I find that with all the football, I must be honest, every game I'm watching, because of there's no crowds there, I can't enjoy it. It's even, like I watched Villa against Liverpool, and that was Villa beating Liverpool, 7-2, whatever it was. I still didn't enjoy the game. I enjoyed the results, it was funny, but I couldn't enjoy the game. It's just that lack of fans, it really does. I can't, football's not a game to watch without any fans. You can watch most other sports, really. I mean, I'm a fan of the F1, and the crowd, it plays absolutely no factor in that, because it's just literally like cars going, you're watching the car, you're watching, the engineering and stuff like that. And with football, the crowd just play that extra, they're the 12th man is what's been said all the time. So, for me, no, I must say, even though we're not playing very well, I'm paying a tenner as well, and it probably is a waste of money, to be honest, but it's still nice, coming at, at 2:45 when we did the players in yesterday, I was still happy, really happy, because we'd won. So as long as we win, I don't get all this, oh, wait, we're not playing well. Yeah, but we are winning, so it's that's what it's all about. 3 points at the end of the day, isn't it?
Do you think, Niall, that the entertainment factor, the fact that we can't go to the games live, the fact that, I know Sunderland's made a bit of an effort with their coverage, and, they've got that pre-show, and they've got their own commentators now who, aren't basically selling for radio, which is what Nick Barnes was. But do you think Parkinson could be a victim of the fact that the experience of watching Sunderland is so poor because there's no crowds, because we're all sat at home, because, they don't even have the piped crowd noise in like they do on Sky, because it's only one camera coverage and all that? Do you think Parkinson almost feels the wrath because of the poor coverage of the games, which therefore means that me sitting at home is less engaged because I'm watching a game that is essentially 2 people talking over the top of it, and there's no background noise. And there's just that one camera. You can't see things like replayed, but couldn't see yesterday if Luke O'Nine's goal was on or offside. Do you think Parkinson could be a victim of the fact that watching football, particularly in this league, is not entertaining just by nature?
Only because of the fact that Sunderland are such a big club, and I think there's still a lot of people who don't like to accept where we are in the league ladder. I don't think anyone's kind of, I don't think anyone's going to look at it and think this is boring because of the fact that the coverage is boring or there's no crowd or whatever. I don't think people are going to be that sort of naive to think that and blame Parkinson for that. So
no, but it's not subconscious, is what I'm saying. Like, we're not enjoying the games because of all these external factors, which therefore means that we'll sit here and say that the football's really boring.
No, but I think we're not enjoying the games because the games aren't enjoyable, rather than the fact that I think if, like he said, Anne said that about the Villa Liverpool game. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the game. I sat and watched it. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It was class. So, I think people are just looking at it in different ways. The reason why Sunderland seems boring is nothing to do with the fact that the stadiums are empty. It doesn't help, but it's something to do with the fact it's because of the drab, boring, party ball, as you call it, football. That is why. That is the problem. Because there has been entertaining games through this lockdown. The Premier League's been full of goals since the start, and I've enjoyed them. I have enjoyed the games. Yes, I would prefer there to be crowds there. Is it's nothing quite like when the ball goes into the back of the net and the player runs off and celebrates with the crowd and you can't see it. It is a shame, but that hasn't affected my viewing. I get what I'm saying and I get what you're saying, but I think people would be it's quite naive if people actually blame Parkinson and think and subconsciously think it's more boring because of the fact of how the world is at the minute. I think that would be harsh. People just blaming him for being boring because it's boring.
Yeah, but subconsciously you don't know you're doing it. So like subconsciously I am watching the games and not finding them entertaining, and therefore in my head I'm going, well, this must be because of Parkinson. But anyway, I want to switch on because we can go again round in circles on that one. It'd be interesting though to hear what kind of people think on that, because I think it is an interesting debate. So tweet us, let me know if I'm talking shit or if they're talking shit. I'll appreciate that. But Ipswich Tuesday night, for me, this is probably the biggest game Phil Parkinson's had as Sunderland manager. Maybe the other important ones were Bristol Rovers last season, where if we'd won it, we probably would have gotten the playoffs. But other than that, we didn't know at the time that was going to happen. But Ipswich on Tuesday, I feel like this is a chance for Parkinson to right the wrongs of that Portsmouth game last weekend, where we really didn't get going. We were mugged off by the high press. We struggled in the game. We just looked second best. I feel like this is a chance for Parkinson to show that we can play with the best in this league. But Ant, is this possibly the biggest game for Phil Parkinson since he's taken the job at Sunderland? And do you think this will give us an indication of where we're going to be come the end of the season?
Yeah, I mean, 100% it's his biggest game. Ipswich are going to come in form. They won yesterday. Good side, top of the league. I think the second, but I mean, what it'll do, it will, for me, it will probably kind of make my mind up whether we're going to be challenging for the top two or whether we're just going to be, maybe, back end of the playoff also runs, maybe like, because if we win on Tuesday, we go 1 point behind Ipswich with a game in hand, and we are right slap bang amongst it then. I really do. I think the league at the moment, as much as everyone's saying, it's still all settling down, the top six, and even go to Portsmouth in the seven, the top seven are probably what I would have said at the start of the season were going to be the top seven. So we can't afford to lose to Ipswich, go 7 points behind them. Yeah, there's a game in hand, but we're playing massive catch up there. We're then relying on other teams. Whereas if we beat them, it's in our hands. We can, as much as it's still early, we can maybe dictate of how our season's going to go there. But it is going to be, as you say, it's going to be a difficult game because Ipswich do play the press very well. It's going to be very important for us to start well, I think, on Tuesday and get the first goal. Try and do what we were doing in Parkinson's good run at the start of this year, where we were coming out in the first 15-20 minutes and blowing teams away. Try and do like what we did to Wickham, which was a huge game. We came in, blew them out the water, and went 3-0 up, and the game was over. So we need to look to do that, which will have to be a change of philosophy, I think. But that's what I think we're going to have to do. We're going to have to try and make them kind of come at us, really. You know what I mean? Make them play. Otherwise, if it's a repeat performance of Portsmouth, we'll get beat. We'll get beat easy because that's not good enough.
Niall, what do you make of the game on Tuesday night? And do you think it is Parkinson's most important game as manager?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I am normally quite optimistic, but I'm kind of fearing for the worst on Tuesday. A few factors in it. The main one is just the fact that it's such a Sunderland thing to do is to get beat on Tuesday when, as Ant said, it would take a point behind them with a game in hand. It's very written in the stars that Sunderland don't take that chance. I also think Ipswich are quite similar to Portsmouth, and we struggled against Portsmouth. They've got the big man up front in Ollie Hawkins, who scored yesterday. They've got balls coming in from either side with your Teddy Bishops and players like that. They've got experience and pace with Freddie Sears. They've got they're very similar to Portsmouth in the way they're set up, and they're similar in the talent that they've got there. And we showed 2 weeks ago that we weren't up to that. We weren't up to the pace of Portsmouth, and we got comfortably beaten. That's my biggest fear. I think we got away with one yesterday. I don't think Sunderland played well. As we touched on, I think the sending off, changed the game, and I do think we got away with one. I don't think we'll get away with one on Tuesday. I hope we do, and I hope Parkinson, pulls something out, a rabbit out the hat or something. But if we play like we've been playing over the last few weeks, we will not win that game on Tuesday. So yeah, things need to change. They need to work hard these next couple of days in training, and maybe hopefully bring the youth in as you've touched on before. Because yeah, like I said, I'd be surprised if we get anything from the game. Not saying we can't, not saying we're not capable, because we're more than capable. But if we carry on playing like how we have been playing, Ipswich, I think, won't have a problem against us on Tuesday.
And for me personally, I'm kind of on the fence on this whole, do I think Parky should be the Sunderland manager? But I feel like a bad performance and defeat on Tuesday night would probably switch me as being a Parky out. Put me in that camp over there with my Eden McGeady camp as well. And would a defeat on Tuesday and a bad, say it is the same as the Portsmouth game, we concede 3 goals and get beat 3-1. Would that switch your opinion? Do you think that the momentum of the fan base would go very much against Parkinson, whereas at the minute I would say that it's kind of middling? People are not a big fan of him, but aren't willing to jump to the Parky out. But do you think a defeat on Tuesday in that manner could mean that?
Yeah, I do. I think, especially if we don't play well and lose. I mean, obviously, it's because it's like we've said pretty much all through this podcast, we haven't played well all season. Really, we've won games, but we haven't played well, and there's only so much patience I think a fan takes, isn't it, before you think, no, this isn't good enough, and yeah, we have been digging the results out, which is a sign. It is a sign of a good side. Don't get us wrong, but the Portsmouth game was such an eye opener because it was our first. I mean, we'd probably say Peterborough was the test at home, but Peterborough didn't play particularly well. It was the first time where a team came to Sunderland and played well, and we just couldn't deal with it. Now, if the repeat happens against Ipswich, then everyone's just going to be thinking, well, we're never going to make top 2 because we're not good enough. So we're going to be, fighting for playoffs or whatever happens with that. Whereas a win, as you said, would catapult us to be up there. So it is it's like you said, it is probably his biggest game as a Sunderland manager, and it could be where, if we do lose, where he does kind of possibly lose his job, really, because they're going to have to look at, is he the man to take us up? And he's he's had just as long now. He's had a year and a bit now, so it's time for him to step up, really.
Niall, you're very much. I saw you wrote in the group chat the other day that you don't like changing managers, and you didn't think there was an alternative anyway. But would a defeat on Tuesday and a convincing defeat, would that swing you to think that maybe Parkinson isn't the right man, or is your sort of feelings on changing managers more that you think it's a bit of a futile thing and often doesn't really, we haven't really picked the right manager since we brought in Sam Allardyce, if we're being brutally honest. So we've not had luck in that department. But where do you sit on the debate?
There's so many ways to look at it. To be honest, I argue with myself quite often about it because I can't decide, to be fair. Sometimes I think, we've got to stick with them. Other times I think we've just got to get rid of them. But I mean, the problem that you've got is that, at one point, is everyone, are we going to look at just the players? Because obviously Jack Ross, this team hasn't changed that much since Jack Ross had it, and it was exactly the same. It was boring football, which had a lot of draws in it. There was nothing exciting. It was very Route One. It was everybody wanted Jack Ross gone, or virtually everybody wanted Jack Ross gone. And it's the same thing that's happening now. It just seems like there's more to it than the manager. And the biggest thing I've got is that if we were to sack Parkinson and say, just for example, we're bringing Paul Cook, who he's not going to be around forever, because I seen yesterday on Twitter the Gillingham fans after that game were saying, get the manager out, bring Paul Cook in now. So there's so many other teams have got that in mind. But if we were to bring Paul Cook in, what is he going to do different to this team to get them to score goals? Because everything else is fine. Yeah, we conceded a few last week, but in average, everything else is fine. We're organised. Nobody can say we're not organised, because we are. We're 9 times out of 10 we're good at the back. So for me, it's just scoring goals. And can Paul Cook come in and resurrect Will Grigg? He knows Will Grigg. Maybe that is something, but then again, he knows Will Grigg. He also dropped Will Grigg. He also didn't play him. So it's
he also sold him.
He also yeah.
I would have sold him for that price.
Yeah, there's a lot more to that, but yeah. So it's one of those things. I've never seen any good from. I mean, when has it ever? Who was the last? Other Allardyce is the last manager we didn't want to go. Um, Everyone else we've wanted to leave. Who's come in and done wonders with Sunderland, and everyone. It's gone sour for everyone. So I just think at the level we are now, he knows the players, he knows the team. He's got his setup. He's got the way that he wants to play in there. Yes, it's not pretty to watch, but we're in League One. There's not many teams are pretty to watch. People say Peterborough, but I watched Peterborough against us a few weeks ago, and they were, there was nothing good about them apart from Dembele. So yeah, I just think stick with them. I just don't see the point in sacking them. People on about the Cowley twins. I'm not really interested in that either because they seemed out of depth at Huddersfield, and people say he saved them. He took over in September, and they nearly went down in the end. So yeah, for me, I just think we've got a manager who's been through worse things at other clubs. What he went through at Bolton with the board and stuff. He's been through worse, so he's going to give it everything he's got because of the fact of, like I said before, it's the biggest job he's ever going to get. So I just think keep him. Unless we go on a losing streak of 5-6 games, then obviously get rid of him. But right now, and even if we get beat on Tuesday, I still think there's nothing good is going to come from sacking him.
Okay, well, I would have jumped on your Dan Cowley rant there, but it is not a podcast about Dan Cowley, so I'll have to do that in private. But I think that's pretty much a wrap for us today, coming in at roughly 40-ish minutes. Thanks, guys, for coming in and to obviously working night shift and then having yourself a nice little double shift on ROKER Report sandwiched in there. So appreciate you coming on and giving me your time, and Niall as well. I see you all the time. Actually, I don't really because of lockdown. Not as much. This is probably the most we've probably spoken months, to be fair.
It's great.
So now I don't have to speak to you for the rest of the week, which is brilliant. Yeah, do a podcast and then I don't have to speak to you again. So happy days. So yeah, thanks guys for listening. Please subscribe and let us know on Twitter if you think we're talking shit, because we enjoy a debate, a nice civil debate.